Hey everyone, it's great to meet you all, and thank you for joining our session today. I'm really excited to share with you some really powerful ways to leverage Perplexity for your consulting workflows. And so, a little bit about myself. I've been with the company as the head of enterprise product for about a year and a half. Worked very closely with Jenny, with Jason, with our engineers and designers, with our go-to-market team members, especially with our customers, to really build out the enterprise product and make sure we can empower every knowledge worker to really do their best work. Prior to Perplexity, I was at Flexport for a little while, but then before that, as Jenny mentioned, I was at Accenture in strategy consulting for about 7 years. A couple of years of that were in the Netherlands, and the majority was here in the Bay Area. So this is definitely a topic that's near and dear to my heart. So very excited to dive in. And so to give you all a bit of context, first and foremost, the basics, I'm pretty sure everyone is aware around what Perplexity does, but I'll give sort of the two-line intro here. Perplexity is an answer engine, right? So instead of, when you ask a question, instead of it giving you 10 blue links like traditional engines, it gives you the actual answer, right? And it does it in a way where every statement is backed by citation, so you can do much deeper research into the underlying context. We are obsessed with giving you the answer as quickly as possible and providing you sort of the right level of fidelity when we give you that answer. But as you will see during the demos, Perplexity is much more than that, much more than giving you answers. It can actually take action and go through workflows on your behalf, create artifacts, lots of capabilities that are really powerful for consultants. And so let's dive in. I want to sort of orient this around how consulting companies and consultants actually do their work. We have companies like Alex Partners, Bain Capital, other consulting firms use Perplexity for their day-to-day work, generally to speed up their research, right? Move much faster, but also just generate artifacts at much higher quality level. And so today we'll focus on three kind of main areas. The first one is around just core research, leveraging Perplexity to go through core research you do, whether that's for a customer deliverable or thought leadership or a proposal. We'll look at sort of our main search and answer capabilities, but also the ability to actually create entire artifacts and prototypes. The second theme is around setting up repeatable workflows through Perplexity. What we tend to see within consulting is that you may go through similar kind of motions to create proposals, SOWs, create project deliverables, all those kinds of things. I want to show you how you can kind of speed up those workflows by setting them up within Perplexity. And then lastly, we'll go through sort of using Perplexity for stakeholder management. I know consultants talk to a ton of different folks every day, right? Whether it's talking to prospects about helping them in their business, or talking to the range of stakeholders that are part of your projects. Perplexity can really help you sort of stay on top of things there. So those are sort of the three topics that we'll go through today.
And really quickly, we also want to make this as interactive as possible. If you want Frank to dive in a little bit deeper, please just shout. We're going to be monitoring that. Or even if you want Frank to try out certain things in his workflow, please let us know. And then if we don't get to it today, I always say, when in doubt, try it out. Try it out for yourself and see what happens. But we'll be monitoring the chat. Just let us know.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly. Let's make this very interactive. Let me share screen so we can jump right in.
Sounds good.
Great. So this is the Perplexity homepage that lets you start off your workflows, your research, your artifact creation, your repeatable workflows. And you're probably very familiar with this. So let's dive into an example of doing research, right? Let's say I'm a consultant doing a post-merger integration project, and I have my playbooks, but I would love to learn more about best practices for executing on this project, especially because I'm working across multiple countries, right? You can enter your query here. You can select between various search modes, right? You can get sort of a quick answer through the regular search mode. but you can enable Perplexity to go much deeper if you enable the research mode, which takes a little longer, but gives you that in-depth answer. And then you can use labs to actually go ahead and create entire artifacts and actually manage kind of your project deliverables. So for now, we'll just do a basic search. Additionally, what you'll see is you'll have the ability to select specific sources here. We'll use the web, but we have an example later of how you can also search your internal knowledge and your premium data sources that you may be subscribed to. And as you know, Perplexity is model agnostic. Perplexity gives you access to the industry's leading frontier models. And so you always have the ability to select a specific model if you feel like it's better suited for the particular use case that you're working on. And then, of course, you can use voice or attach certain documents you wanted to go through. Now let's submit it. And what happens now is that you see that Perplexity sort of went through the motions of doing the research, right? And what you see here is when it went through a bunch of different websites and essentially read those websites and took the best from those websites to generate the answer. And sort of how this generally works, right, is that you enter a query, you see that here. Perplexity then goes and creates a plan for answering this question, and it will actually reformulate your question into different alternatives that it will search. And then it will review the sources and essentially wrap up the work and give you an answer, leveraging the model you selected to then that is based on these sources that it researched. And so as you go through this, the key best practices, for example, some very specific examples, you can always dive deeper by going into the sources that it has pulled this particular statement from. And if there are specific statements that you want more context around, you can always select those statements and check on the sources. And it will then go ahead and find the underlying sources that this statement was pulled from. So you can always, for every statement, go much deeper into the underlying sources. So here I got a ton of insights on best practices. I can review the 20 sources that were included and were reviewed as part of the generation of this answer. But then I can continue to dive deeper by, for example, asking a related question. Obviously, I can ask my own follow-ups, but if I want to, for example, learn more about cultural differences, I can just sort of keep learning and keep fulfilling sort of that aspect of curiosity around learning more about a particular area.
Someone asked if you can turn a research question and turn it into a proper lab. Great question. You could either bring that query into a net new lab, but you can see that you still have the different options in the query box at the bottom if you want to do a follow-up. So if you want to have the context from a research query and then turn it into a lab, you can do that as well.
Yeah, good question. And we'll also look at some labs examples after this. Another example I want to show, and I created it here just for the sake of time here, is that you can ask questions that search across the web, but also your internal knowledge and also any kind of premium data sets. And you can specify specific sources you want to consult by, for example, saying something like academic or web or my Notion, right? You can mention the sources you want Perplexity to include. And then you can get an answer that really tabs deep into those sources. For example, you want a summary from your internal knowledge base around user research notes, and Perplexity will go into your Notion to actually go and answer that question. And so you really have the opportunity to do research across all of the knowledge sources that matter to your workflows.
And you could call out different sources at the same time too. If you ever want to cross-reference maybe your Slack messages with Notion, that's always super helpful.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. The other example and last example I want to call out around sort of that core research aspect is around research of things you find on the web. So what you see here, right, is the Perplexity web app, but we're actually in our browser called the Comet browser. And what the Comet browser enables you is essentially an assistant that's always by your side as you browse the web, that can help you do a wide variety of tasks and help you essentially move much faster. So let's say there is a tweet here that you want to go and fact check. I can go ahead and say, open the assistant, so that's always by my side and knows what I'm doing. And I can say something like fact check the statements shared in this post. And so now it will go ahead and review this page, this tweet, and it will actually tell you whether or not this is accurate and provide you additional context. So as you can see here, you can drive sort of core research through the web app, but you can leverage Comet to really drive your research across any website.
I think this is great for having white papers or long research papers up side by side. I always like it because it keeps me focused. Always asking adjacent questions. You can ask if different forums have a similar point of view, etc. You could also reference your connectors inside the Omnibar as well.
That's right. Or you can, if, for example, you want something very specific to be reviewed, you can also take a screenshot, bring that in here for even more focus. Great. So I want to transition now to the artifact creation part of core research. I think what we tend to see in consulting, and you know much better than me, but what I hear from our customers is that consulting sort of is almost transitioning from not just generating deliverables like presentations or insights, but is transitioning to actually generating prototypes and making the recommendations come to life much more. And that's where Perplexity can be incredibly powerful. Through first and foremost, our labs feature that Jenny talked about, right? Because what our labs product does is essentially create artifacts and actually do coding work to generate an app or a dashboard or slides for that matter that you can then use in any other context and can really use to make use cases come to life more. So this is an example that we generated prior around creating an interactive dashboard, right? Create an interactive dashboard, simulate regulatory changes, emerging risks, tariffs, and business scenarios for an automotive company based in Germany, but exports to the US. Provide a sliding scale of economic impact based on tariff rates, right? So instead of potentially a slide or a graphic to share the impact on, for example, tariff rates, you can make this a much more interactive experience by creating a dashboard through labs. And here you can see the dashboard that was generated, right? It's actually been coded, but you can obviously share this artifact with, for example, your customers. And it's actually interactive as you move around some of the levers to outline some of the specific scenarios for your clients. You'll be able to make sort of the scenarios come to life much more through this kind of artifact. Another great example that I think is going to become more and more common is the creation of actual prototypes. Let's say you are advising your customers around creating certain new products or new experiences, new digital experiences for their end customers. What can be more powerful here than actually creating a prototype of the type of experience you're envisioning, right? This is just an example of, hey, we're telling labs, you're a software developer, build a prototype app that allows users to book test driving appointments for all the Toyota cars available in the US. Get to a streamlined test drive experience for our customers. And then you can be actually quite specific on what it should include, and you can iterate on these kinds of deliverables. But let's say you have some sort of transition to digital and online kind of project that you're bringing to your clients. And what is more powerful than actually creating a prototype like this that actually kind of brings this whole concept of this digital portal to life? For example, I can actually pick a car, I can continue, I can select time slots and continue, right? And go through this entire flow. And you can obviously iterate on this flow as you go. But as a result, you show what this experience could look like to customers.
And I love this because it doesn't, you can also take the code. There's a little toggle at the top, Toyota test drive. There's an I and then there's a code. You could always take that code and adjust it yourself. A lot of folks bring it into platforms like Replit or Lovable, or even share it with their engineers to see how things could work. But it's always a great place. Um, Frank is my PM. I have not sent you a prototype of what things could look like yet. But this is always a great way to say, hey, here's the art of the possible of what we could do.
Yeah, great point. And obviously all of these are shareable. So you can share this with anyone and, for example, just send the link to your client and be like, hey, this is what we're thinking. And they can play around with it themselves.
Someone had a great question about the best tips for writing prompts. This always comes up, and I think the formula that has worked, and Frank, I'm curious to know if you have other suggestions too, is always being super clear about the goal and what you want it to accomplish, and even what type of persona would be great at building towards that goal. So you are a very thorough engineer. Your goal is to create a prototype of XYZ. But my hack itself is asking Perplexity to refine my prompts and say, please take a look at this prompt based on most recent, based on prompting best practices. What is the best way to get the most out of my prompt?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Using an LLM to help you fine tune your prompt, I think is a great way to do it. Or ask the LLM to give you 5 options, right? Because they may come up with great variations that get to the point much more than you were originally anticipating. Um, Obviously, iteration is always kind of the thing, right? You should start somewhere and then refine as you go. Um, there are studies that show that if you are much more dramatic with the LLM, it could help as well. But I think that's something you can experiment with. It's like, hey, the world's going to end unless you do XYZ. But those are things you can experiment with. Cool. So the last thing I want to show is around artifact generation is a very specific common use case once again, because within Perplexity and many of our customers, we are in Comet every day, and essentially it helps you speed up most of the work you tend to do from a productivity standpoint. And so the use case I want to sketch out here is that, let's say you're building a business case around some sort of asset management projection, and a client stakeholder has given you some numbers that you requested that you need to plug into your model, right? Okay, here are some CapEx numbers for your North region that you requested. Now, let's say I have this business model. Obviously, this is super simplified, but you can kind of get the idea here. I can normally I would have to kind of copy paste it and format it correctly. What I can now do is say, go to comment and say, take the numbers from the particular Gmail email that I've received and enter them into this model. Be extra specific. And so again, you can easily reference different tabs, and Comet will move the data and transform the data around. And so it'll review the source, and it will now start to enter this data.
Someone asked about types of file exports. So this is a perfect example. You can download things into a PDF. Over here, you can download Excel sheets as well. And what we will be having on the platform soon is the ability to create PowerPoints and documents as well. So I always use Perplexity here as either organizing my data, first drafts of whatnot, and then bringing it into a document that I can easily edit and work. And this assistant capability is a part of Comet, correct? Not just this won't necessarily work on Perplexity Enterprise.
That's right, right. So this capability of taking over any spreadsheet and any application, and for example, moving data around or having the assistant perform tasks is really the core capability of Comet. I think it's fun to watch Comet complete some of this work, but I think for greatest efficiency, you can tell Comet to do a certain thing, but then you move on to your next task, right? And so as a result, you have sort of agents doing work while you continue on and sort of your most important threads.
And it sounds like you just convinced Dimitri to switch to Comet, which is great to hear.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think with Comet, there's so many ways and to be more efficient. So it's really trying it out, trying to think of new ways to move faster, and Comet tends to be able to support that. Cool.
I know we just went over labs and I know we just went over Comet. Andrew had a question on, can we create analysis with data from even something that's sent from Gmail? Absolutely, yes. And that's where labs is really good at. You can also upload CSV data and ask it to analyze it for you. So test it out. You could always either at the tab or even ask Perplexity within the assistant and see what it will produce for you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Great. Let's move to the second theme that we've been talking about, which is the ability to set up repeatable workflows within Perplexity. And so I want to transition to a new tab. Let me set this up and show you this product called Spaces. What Spaces enable you to do is essentially build a custom version of Perplexity that's tailored to your use case. You'll be able to customize the context that the system is pulling from, for example, upload files, point Perplexity to specific websites. You can add specific instructions for how every question should be answered within that space, and you can invite team members, collaborators to then work together on research. And so it's especially powerful for a range of typical consulting workflows, I would say, that tend to occur throughout your day. And so I want to run through a couple of examples here. You can find a ton of examples yourself in this template gallery, right, where you can find, for example, sales and marketing use cases that help you, build competitor battle cards, or help you build profiles for companies that you're about to meet with, for example. Ton of different examples that you can start with. And so we're going to, let's say you're doing due diligence on a particular company, right, on behalf of your client. Let's take this example here of a due diligence data room, right, where essentially you can leverage this space to bring in all kinds of due diligence documentation that maybe the target company has shared with you, and then leverage this space as almost like a data room to evaluate that information, analyze the documents, or compare the documents with results from the web. So what we've done here in this example is we've uploaded a bunch of documents that we've received from like NovaChain. They've sent us some emails, but also past deal memos that are related and relevant for this particular deal. And then we've set up instructions specifically for this space. So every question you enter here will follow these instructions. So again, for the sake of time, just showing you this example here, right? Summarize the positioning of our target company and compare it to these sort of past deals that we've evaluated. And so you'll see it will go through all the documents in the space, but it will also review the latest details from the web and then provide you details on positioning of the various companies, as well as an entire table on, for example, comparison between the various companies and a final summary. So this is an example of tailoring Perplexity around a very specific use case that you have, or a very specific topic that you want to explore. Now let's build a space from scratch. Let's say you're a consultant. Oh, go ahead, Jenny.
Can I bring in a question real quick?
Yep. Let's do it.
Someone was asking how we balance generative answers and web results. And this is the one key thing that we really live and die by, which is we always source either live web results or whatever your sources you're providing. We only use the models to summarize and break down the information that you need from those sources. So for Perplexity, we always think hallucinations are bugs, and they're not. We are always trying to ground ourselves in truth. So Frank, maybe if you want to highlight the sources again that you're reviewing, and also in thread as well.
Yeah, and here you can also see very specifically, well, on the one hand, the sources per Jenny, right? We consulted 43 sources for generating this answer, and you can see the balance that we are taking between leveraging the documents you provided. You see, for example, here in a sort of attached PDF source, as well as sort of the web results. For example, here a research report, and so you can go super deep into where we're getting this information from, as you can see here. Also, I think there was this discussion was about also about how do you kind of balance the two. You can be pretty specific there. You can put it in your prompt, for example, summarize these documents, or you can even like specify the names and then compare it with results from the web. But you can be even more specific if that's desired by going and selecting specific sources, as shown earlier. For example, hey, I want in some cases to potentially even turn off the web and only leverage the documents that I uploaded, or that I added to a space. Cool. Now let's create our own space here so we can bring this to life even further. Let's say I am a consultant who frequently has to create SOWs, right? Statements of work. I've won a deal, and now I want to turn my sales proposal into a SOW. It tends to be kind of tedious work. It also kind of tends to be somewhat repetitive, where it's always kind of a similar format. And so I want to have Perplexity help me create these SOWs for me, essentially turn a proposal into a SOW, but also leverage and adhere to the format and structure that I used previously for my previous SOWs. And so what I'm going to do is create this space, right? And so I'm going to create an SOW hub. And I'm going to add my previous SOWs that my teams and myself have created in the past. I can upload them from my drive, but I can also connect to my SharePoint or my OneDrive, and I can actually hook up this space to my SOW folder, so that as folks add more SOWs, those are going to be synced with Perplexity. And so in this case, I'm going to sync this folder. As you can see, it's syncing. And I can even go in here and I can see that all 3 SOWs are now ready. I can see that here as well. I can even go ahead and add some very specific instructions, the special instructions that I mentioned before. And I just put these in, take the sales proposal, I upload it and use its content to create SOW. Again, you can probably use an LLM to make this even better, this prompt, but now you can see these instructions are used every time that I ask a question here. So now all I have to do is like, hey, let's upload my sales proposal from the deal that I won most recently, this mock sales proposal. It's going to upload it, and now I'm just submitting it, and it will follow the instructions I added. It will consult the documents I uploaded, and it will, as you can see here, will review the source, and it will then go ahead and create that proposal based on the past, or sorry, it will create the SOW based on the past SOWs that I have created.
I know this is pulling the files in the instructions, but someone's also asking, is it going to reference previous queries in the space?
Yes, let me show that. So let me show you that. That's a great question. Let me share this briefly, and then I'll get back to the ability to reference previous queries in the space. So as you can see now, this statement of work has been created. And if I were to look at a previous document, and I'll open it in a second, what you'll see is that the format and the chapters that it used are exactly identical to the previous ones. I can then go ahead and download this, or I can also share this as a PDF with my customer. And obviously, I can also just refine this. Per the question on, hey, it can refer to documents uploaded, can it also reference previous threads? You can actually go ahead and save specific threads that you want to be referenceable for future threads. You can save those threads to the space. So if I do this and I have a question in the future, it will actually reference this particular thread as input. So you can decide which context you want to have added to the space versus which context you just want to use temporarily and don't want to have part of the space.
Nice. I always like looking at the assistant steps to inspire what specific instructions I should go back and edit my space instructions with. Maybe you liked something that you saw or didn't like something that you saw, and you want to make sure that the instructions follow or don't follow. And I love this recent, I guess it's not so recent because it's been a few months now. You no longer have to be in a space to query it. You can at the space in the homepage or even at the space in the comment assistant bar as well. And then your instructions will be stored there.
That's right. It called it, Jenny. So I'm in the main search view here, and I just reference this space. And then if I upload my sales proposal again, it will run the query within this space. You don't actually have to go in there, so you can move even faster.
And then someone's asking about tasks in spaces. I'm really excited, but not quite yet, right, Frank?
Yeah, this is something that's coming up. We're not quite there yet, but definitely something that the teams are working on. And let me actually move while we're on this topic. Let me move to tasks in spaces, and let me move to generally just tasks, because what we are hearing a lot from our customers is that they tend to go through repetitive research tasks that you can actually fully automate with Perplexity. Let's say every morning you want to review the latest product launches from a certain set of competitors for a client that you're doing a project for. What you can do is go into Perplexity and set up a scheduled task where you can say something like, every morning, go through, in this case, I'll showcase an example, summarize the product launches from the past day for both OpenAI and Claude, focus on work and productivity use cases, right? That's the task I set up. And as you can see here, every day it gives you, the insights for that particular question that you asked. And so it's a very effective way to just stay up to date on the topics that matter to you. And you can get a notification or an email in your inbox to just make the research processes that are repeatable very seamless.
I also like that you can choose if you get a notification or if it's sent to your email. It's very customizable on timing, on where you get it, and also what model you want to have the answer be output in.
Yeah, and let me just show this, right? So here you can see every day it generates a threat, and every day you can kind of read through these research details that are being generated for you. And again, even for these tasks, you can have it be a research query or a labs query, and those will then be generated.
Frank, Tina's asking if we can go through a workflow of creating one from scratch, if we don't mind going back to that page.
Yeah, let's go through it. So I'm in this tasks view, and I can, for example, say, hey, every day share latest developments, share latest news in the share about latest news in the medical AI space. So I enter my query, I submit it, and it's now sort of entered into this more structured template that allows you to configure your task even further. So again, in the future, you'll be able to add this to a space, but you can say, okay, I want this research to run every day or every week at a certain time. And I can even specifically tell the system what research mode or model or source to use as part of going through this. And I can tell where to deliver this as well. So that's sort of how you can set up this automated task.
And pro tip, I have one to prep me for my meetings every day. So you can see in the sources, you can choose across the different sources, you could choose your connections. So I have Perplexity read my calendar every single day and say, prep me for my meetings and let me know if there's any news that I should know about for external partners that we're meeting with. And that is always a super easy way to either read the email or read the notification as I'm on my way to work.
Right.
Frank, someone's also asking about models for certain task scenarios. I personally use Best. I know some use Claude for writing. Do you have any other suggestions on that?
I would say so. I think generally setting it to best lets Perplexity optimize the model based on the task, and that's what I would generally recommend. And there may, per Jenny's point, some specific use cases around creative writing, where or structuring, or adding particular structure to your answer, where something like Claude Sonnet 4.5 would help. But generally, Perplexity will kind of pick the best model for the task.
And then we have a similar question around different files. So someone was asking if you can connect Fireflies. If we don't always have an integration, sometimes they have integrations with saving it to your file app. You could either add your file app to the task or even to a specific space for it to constantly read.
That's right. Yep. And you can set up your connectors and then connect them to your research, to your spaces. Great. Now we have a couple of minutes left, and so I want to switch to the last topic of stakeholder management. Right, as mentioned before, you will interact with a ton of different folks throughout your day, and so how can Perplexity help you there be more efficient? One of the ways is to actually connect your Gmail and your Gcal, or your email and your calendar, to Perplexity, and essentially have Perplexity help you either prepare for your day or prepare for specific meetings, right? And so this is an example where and the example that Jenny just mentioned, like prep me for my meetings tomorrow, right? And you can be even more specific, but it will essentially go through your calendar, understand all the details, including participants and agendas, and it will give you a bio for each of the participants. It'll help you prepare based on the calendar. It'll give you recommendations on what to potentially prepare for. And so it's a really great way to get ready for the day. You can obviously set this up as a task so that it just lands in your inbox every day. You can not only read sort of what's on your calendar or in your inbox, you can also actually create responses or send out calendar invites, right? So in some cases, you may want Perplexity to draft your responses to your most important emails and just send them from within here, or create calendar events and send invites to folks. And that's actually where the last part of this demo comes in, which is around our uh, Perplexity email assistant. So let me show this to you, because what we strive to do with Perplexity is to actually be part of your workflows and be at where you do your work, right? And one of the key places where you do your work is obviously your inbox. And so we want to help you be more productive even within your own inbox outside of Perplexity by accelerating your core workflows. And we do that through the email assistant in a number of ways. First off, what the email assistant will do is essentially bring more structure to your inbox. It'll add specific labels to each of your emails based on its understanding of every email. And obviously AI can understand emails really well. So it'll help you understand, okay, which ones are just notifications, or which emails should I absolutely respond to, which ones are meeting updates. So you can structure your workflows there. And then it can actually help you respond to emails more effortlessly. So every email that it thinks you should be responding to, it'll create a draft response for. So you go into your inbox, the emails have already been set up for you. All you do is make some light refinements where needed and send the emails out. We're also making sure that we're using the tone of voice that you tend to use in your emails, and so it'll sound just like you. And lastly, it can then help you also with setting up meetings. So let's say you are trying to coordinate on times with a third party, you can just CC Perplexity essentially on your email, CC your assistant, and ask it to find a slot and schedule a meeting. And so as a result, it saves you a ton of time with some of these more repeatable, mundane workflows, just like setting up meetings. So as a result, another, I think, really key feature to sort of accelerate your stakeholder management workflows that you go through day to day.
I love CCing an assistant. I feel so powerful. It feels so good to be able to have someone take care of that.
Exactly. So
Um,
this really, concludes our three themes. We can definitely answer any final questions, if there are any left.
think we answered a lot of them. Alex asked if you can schedule links with Google Meets or Zoom links. They have for me for Google Meet. And someone was asking about tasks for pro users. You do have access to tasks as a pro user. You get up to 10. And I've put the link in the chat. I'll also send a follow-up link as well.
Yeah, and then for example, with the email assistant, maybe to answer that other question, you have options to have it, for example, respond with a Calendly link that you tend to use, and so there's a lot of variation that you can apply to make sure the meetings get scheduled in the most efficient way.
For sure. Frank, a lot of folks are asking about the security differences between enterprise and our regular Pro and Max. Would you like to share some insight there on data training?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, across our tiers, security is our highest priority, right? We want you to be able to go through your research flows in the most secure way. Enterprise really sort of offers the highest level of security, where we never, under any circumstance, train any kind of models on your data. That is not even something you can set. It's just disabled by default. And in addition to that, have various other security capabilities around, for example, permissioning configurability that help you make sure your organization leverages Perplexity in the most secure way. For example, you can define whether or not threats can be shared with folks outside of the organization, right? Or you can enforce SSO login, right? Or you have audit logs or usage analytics dashboards. You have a range of capabilities to make sure that data leakage risks are minimized.
Love to hear that one. We are SOC 2 Type 2 compliant as well. And if you have any other questions on our security, we also have trust.perplexity.ai that I'm going to drop in the chat as well if you are looking for any of our security documentation. I'll also make sure that that is in our follow-up as well. Any other questions before we wrap up? I know we're a few minutes over. Thanks so much, Robert. Thanks, Joseph. Thanks everyone for joining. Feel free to pop your questions in. If we don't get to them, please reach out to us at enterprise@perplexity.ai, and we'll be happy to answer your questions there. Frank, seems like you still have a consultant in you. I appreciate you sharing all your workflows, and I hope this gave some folks a lot of ideas. I really liked, I forgot who shared, bringing in your Fireflies meeting notes into the SOW space so you can reference customer meetings into your SOW. That's a great idea. If you have any other ideas, feel free to give us a shout on social or just write to us. Hope everyone has a great day, and we'll be sure to share the recording afterwards.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for
Have a
joining.
great day. Bye.